Welcome to the Political News Report, politicalnewsreport.com. You know, the current news cycle moves fast and it's hard to stay on top of all of the important stories. But here's a story that came through the curated news feed at politicalnewsreport.com that seems worth a closer look. From your friends at Zero Hedge, scientists find man-made climate change doesn't exist in practice. But before we talk about that, I want to say a quick thank you to the new subscribers that joined on YouTube and BitChute this past week. Friends, if you find value in this content, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and also share the Political News Report on social media. Now back to the story. As the Tylers at Zero Hedge tell it, a new scientific study could bust wide open the fundamental assumptions underlying controversial climate legislation and initiatives such as the Green New Deal, namely the degree to which climate change is driven by natural phenomena versus man-made issues measured as the carbon footprint. The story goes on. Scientists in Finland found practically no anthropogenic, that means man-made, climate change after a series of studies. They also found that during the last 100 years, the temperature increased about 0.1 degrees Celsius because of carbon dioxide. And the human contribution was about 0.01 degrees Celsius. Now, let's take a minute just to think about that. First of all, according to these Finnish scientists, the increase in global temperature over the last 100 years that can be attributed to carbon dioxide is about 0.1 degrees Celsius. Now, that statement alone challenges what is current conventional wisdom. The way it's taught in schools, the way we're told by the mainstream news, by Hollywood, Madison Avenue, even some people on Wall Street, is that global warming is largely a man-made phenomenon driven by our reliance on fossil fuels. But this Finnish study challenges that and says that the increase in the global temperature over the last 100 years that can be attributed to carbon dioxide is about 0.1 degrees Celsius. Not saying that it's man-made carbon dioxide that is attributable to a 0.1 degree Celsius increase, but just carbon dioxide in general. The study then says the part of carbon dioxide increasing the temperature that can be attributed to humanity, is about 0.1 degrees Celsius, or 10% of the total that carbon dioxide is contributing to global warming. Now, this study apparently was collaborated by a team in Japan, and I don't know if that's a typo and it was supposed to be corroborated, but it's clear that there were two groups of scientists in two very different parts of the world doing the same research and came to the same conclusion. And that conclusion is that new evidence suggests that high-energy particles from space, known as galactic cosmic rays, affect the Earth's climate by increasing cloud cover, causing an umbrella effect. The findings are hugely significant given this umbrella effect, an entirely natural occurrence, could be the prime driver of climate warming and not man-made factors. Here's another quote that I'd like to read to you real quick. In their related paper, aptly titled, "No Experimental Evidence for the Significant Anthropogenic or Man-Made Climate Change," the Finnish scientists find that low cloud cover practically controls global temperatures, but that only a small part of the increased carbon dioxide concentration is anthropogenic, or caused by human activity. And the biggest quote that's worth taking away from this is here. And that is, if we pay attention to the fact that only a small part of the increased CO2 concentration is anthropogenic, we have to recognize that the anthropogenic climate change does not exist in practice. Now, personally, I'm kind of split on the global warming issue, but this seems to be very important information, and it also seems to be ignored by everyone but the kind of people who read Zero Hedge or follow the political news report. Whether or not global warming is real or a hoax, whether it's naturally occurring or man-made, isn't as important to me as what power-hungry politicians, I know that's a bit redundant, but it's not as important to me as what power-hungry politicians can do with a public that is regularly fed the idea that man-made climate change, man-made global warming is an undeniable scientific fact. And you're crazy if you question it. Just like we've seen with things like the war on communism, the war on drugs, the war on terror, the war on global warming can provide an easily abused mandate by those holding the reins of power. It's a perfect Hegelian dialectical problem-reaction-solution centerpiece from which to make the public beg for more authoritarianism and less freedom. And when you think about global warming and you think about climate change, isn't that what's happening with the public at large already? By the way, if you aren't familiar with the Hegelian dialectic, I did a short video and also a blog post on it, and I will link to it as well as the Zero Hedge story in the show notes. As I mentioned before, give us a thumbs up if you found this content of value. Also subscribe, share, and click the notifications bell to be notified when there's more political news to report. Also remember to visit the politicalnewsreport.com website every day to stay abreast of the latest political news. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and remember, the political is personal.